Hello and welcome to hobby vlog number 31. If you're not yet a subscriber, please do subscribe, and also don't forget to use the little bell on YouTube and set it to all so that whenever one of my videos goes live, YouTube does actually tell you. It's been a better week this week than the previous one, and thanks for all the support and all the comments and encouragement that you've given me. It's been wonderful. It's meant such a lot to me. But also, just that's how life is. You go up, you go down, you just kind of carry on, don't you? I have done a fair bit of hobbying. Not all of it will appear in this vlog because I'm working very hard towards the next Battle Games of Middle-earth video, and I've also started another couple of series, and I've got an unboxing because today Oak and Iron arrived, so very excited about that, and I've just finished editing the video for that, which should come out on Tuesday, and there'll be quite a lot of content for that coming, most of which will be on the vlog, but the unboxing won't be, but most of the rest of it I will probably put on for terrain. Anyway, I'll stop rabbiting on now and we'll jump back to the beginning of the week, and I will see you again at the end of the video. If you remember, I did these hedges using the material that I normally use for like vines and other kind of greenery. And while it's worked okay, it hasn't worked as well as I wanted it to. It's a little bit rubbish, frankly. So what I'm going to do is a different idea, and this is an experiment build. I'm not worried about the fact that sometimes things aren't always working, because I'm trying things out, and who knows, eventually I might actually rebuild even this board and get rid of this one. But the first day I want to learn some practices, because I haven't actually done this sort of scale before. So I'm now going to try a technique for hedges, making use of scrubbing brushes. So these are the kind of like pot scarers, I think they're called. And I think that's going to be quite a simple thing again to apply. What we'll be looking at doing is a bead of glue where we want it to go, and I'll just put it over the top of the existing attempt because frankly it's fine, I don't need to get rid of it. So I'll put a bit of a bead of glue across like so, and then we will press the material down into it, and when that's dry I'll come back with some more PVA and cover that over, and just to kind of make it rigid, because this layer, this process now is sticking it down, and then I will need to actually make it so it doesn't break when it's used or when it's touched. So just very thin strips of the pot scarer using sharp scissors. There we are, that's going to be fine, and stick that in like so. There we are. Right, I will do the rest of that, and we'll put some music on or stop the video, one of the two. You'll find out, you know more than me now, and I'll be back when I've completed that and we'll have a look at what it looks like. Just a quick clip. What I'm doing here is I am about to empty off the extra number 2 sand that I put on these walls when I was also doing this hedgerow. And what I've got is a big plastic container, and this is how I work with larger builds. So I will now tip this up into the tray, and that will save the material from going on the floor and also mean that I can probably reuse it, which is also very good. Just like that, straight into the tray. Now obviously you can hoover, but then you have absolutely no chance of reusing the material. As it is now, I'll be able to re-sieve that and get a lot of that back. So that's how I work with larger terrain pieces and not wasting too much of my materials. Thought that'd be interesting. Next thing I'm going to do on this is some fields, so work on the fields. So what I've got here is some hay static grass, very short static grass, hay static grass, and I'm going to apply that over not all of these fields but most of them. I might leave the ploughed fields without, and I might put it over all of these. I think that's my plan. So I will pop some music on and go ahead. I have the Warworld Scenics, or whatever that stands for, Pro Grass Applicator, which is getting a bit long in the tooth now. I've had it for many years, but it's really good. So I will be making use of that. The same manufacturer fast tack glue and the short static grass. So let's get going. So I think that the battery ran out just before I finished doing the static grassing, but still I think most of it was captured, and you can see now I've done a bit of a hoover and tidied up. That's looking absolutely fantastic. I'm really pleased. It certainly looks like a hayfield, like a field with corn growing in it. Now what I'm about to do now is focus in on the long thin field that you can see in the centre of your picture. Let's zoom in. Now I take photographs and send the progress shots to my good friend Alchemy, and he was kind enough to point out that I'm an idiot, which is always welcomed when I am being an idiot. Now these three sections here are 1 hex, and these three sections here are 1 hex, and these three sections here are 1 hex, which you can't see really in the shot, but anyway. And from this particular field, you should be able to get to there and there, but not to here, if you see what I mean. I think that's the way it is. Let me just have a quick look at the map. Yes, so from this hex here, you should be able to get to there, but not to there. Okay, so that's the mistake I've made. So yeah, so really this field this here needs to be impassable terrain, which is a bit of a pain. I'm a bit annoyed at myself for making that mistake, but it's simply done, easily done, and I have got an idea of how I'm going to resolve it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the larger stones. So these are my number 4, so the largest that I actually get when I'm sieving out my sand. And I'm going to put a bank going down this line here, so that it's clearly wild ground. And what I might also do is put some rubberized horsehair in so that it looks like wild land. So you can't go from this field to this field, and that's the limitation. You can go to that field from it, you can go to that field from it, and you can go from there and to there, and those are the only places that you can go in the game, so you can't go here. So let's get that done. So first of all, reaching across, I'll grab my PVA and I'll put a thick bead of PVA along the offending mistake. Just goes to show, doesn't it? I stared and stared and stared at this, and I drew and drew and drew, and I still made a mistake. Mistakes happen, no matter how careful you are, and I'm very glad that I have got the habit of running past the things I'm doing past my friends, because, well, they are able to spot these mistakes. So I'm going to quickly grab the rubberized horsehair, so I will quickly pause the video and be back in a second. Right, so here we are. I've got my rubberized horsehair, and so what we're going to do is I'm going to stick this in just along this ridge here, so that it looks quite wild, and it's good stuff, rubberized horsehair. You can just tear it up. Let's save that from being too wild there, too deep. So we've got a nice wild kind of patch there. And what we'll do is we'll get some of this stones and we'll scatter them on, and I can pick off the wild ones easily enough. I think it's quite clear now that you can't go this way. And what I'll do now is I will get my thinner PVA, so my mix that I use for sealing terrain. And after I've picked out all these other bits that I don't want to be glued where they are, I will drizzle some of that over the top using a brush. And that will then secure it all. So there we are, that's pretty much how I want it to be. So you've got some brambles or what have you coming out, and then you have the rocks underneath. So let's get the terrain glue, and let's grab a brush and I'll paint that over the top and then let that dry. Frustrating, that's put me back a bit actually, because I was all set for moving on to the next thing. But now I don't really want to move this for the rest of the night, because I want this all to go off and dry properly. So there we are. However, thank you again, Alchemy. Thank you for spotting that mistake. Much appreciated. I'm glad that you pointed it out. Better now than right at the end or after it's finished. That would have been very frustrating. So, good. Right, so I'll leave that how that is now, and see whether I need to come back in with any more glue a bit later on or tomorrow morning. But there we are, that's now impassable, and the mistake has been tidied up. The section here has dried nicely and is now clearly impassable, So what I'm now going to do, panning across expertly, or not quite so, is resolve another almost mistake I've made here. Almost the same thing. This is actually quite tough. So what we have is we have the section here which has the shrine on it. And we have a section here which is a full hex on the map, which is for a forest. And this actually is another area in a hex. This here is a hex that's split in half, and you can't get from this area to this area here. So what I'm going to do is put a wall that's going to come like this, and then it's also going to have a wall that's going to come like that. So that's going to be like that, and then I'll do it like this. If that made any sense at all, I'm not sure. It's a little bit odd trying to explain my thoughts in this way. However, that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to be trying another technique. This is very much an experiment board, and I'm going to be using this thin cork to do what will hopefully look quite a bit like a wall. So kind of not quite as rough and ready as this is here. This needs to be hoovered again. Look, there's some loose. But still it will look like a wall. So what I'm going to do is measure that out and glue it in, and I'm going to try using the basing glue from Luke's APS, which is a slightly different glue to PVA. It's actually latex based, I believe, and I'm hoping that that will bond quite nicely with the cork. So I'm going to get that done, and I'll be back to show you what it looks like when it's finished. I've glued that cork in place, had a bit of a spill as you can see, but hopefully that'll dry clear. But even if it doesn't, I will be putting some more scatter on there anyway. So I'm going to leave that to dry. This is going to be a slow process because I'm trying out so many techniques. So I'll come back to this probably tomorrow, leave that alone, unless I can work out somewhere else to work on. But for now, that's good enough for me. I found my little section to work on while I'm waiting for that wall to dry. So this area here is actually a swamp, which I'd forgotten about until just now. So what I'm going to do is I've got some tufts which I'm going to put down. I have some clear nail varnish which I'll use to put in some like shallow watery type things, and I'll also paint some green and what have you over it. But what I'm going to do first of all is patchily apply some of the paler green flocking that I've got. Just get that focus, there we are, paler green flocking that will look a little bit more sickly. So I've got my terrain paint and I've got my paintbrush for applying it. So I'm going to put glue over the whole thing because it will also then act as a sealant on the base, and I'm probably going to paint this area as well just while I'm at it. So I'll just do that, put some music on, or skip, whichever I decide to do. Right, that's done. So I'm going to quickly wash my brush, and then I'll be back to scatter the flock. So the brush is clean, so now we're going to sparsely scatter this flock just over this section here, which I want to have as the marshland or the bog. I'm going to do it like this, so it will look like floating rafts of algae. Okay, that'll do for now. What I'll then do is get some of these tufts, get myself my tweezers. Always use tweezers with these. There we are. Get myself some tweezers and put put some of these tufts on. Got these second-hand in a batch of Dol Amroth Knights I bought many years ago, and they lasted ever since. No idea what make they are, possibly Games Workshop, but I do like them. So we're just going to put these on sparsely again. There we are. And finally, for this little section, for now, I'm going to put some of these smaller tufts on as well. Just want it to look a little wild and what have you. And one more. And actually, finally, and I said finally, and not meant it, I'm going to grab some, probably number 3 size of my sifted stones. So give me 1 second. Okay, I'm back. So here are some number 3 size sifted stones. As you can see, they're of a good size, and I'm just going to put them in here very sparsely. That first pinch is all I'm going to do. Move them from there. There we are. So that now is a good first start on doing the marsh. So there we are. I'll come back later once that's dried, and maybe I will add some more colours and some more grasses, and I will put the clear nail varnish on as well. While this is drying, and seeing as I've put glue all over that section, excuse me, I've decided to come in with some darker flock, homemade, and scatter that on here. This is actually planes, so I'll be doing a lot of this on the other areas as well, but just while I've got the glue wet, I may as well pop my scatter down, my flock, because I will be coming over with some short static grass on this, but a base colour of this dark green is a good idea on this area. So I'll just get this done. Okay, there we are. I bought this when we knew Angela was pregnant, but we didn't know whether we were having a boy or a girl. We didn't know that until she appeared. But it doesn't matter, because I think this is really awesome. And it's been sat on my shelf for a long time. It was always planned to be hung up either in the playroom or the bedroom or something. And I was hoping and planning on having it done before she was born, but that didn't happen for various reasons of time and what have you. So what I'm going to do is, it's made, it potentially needs a little bit of a fix, and it needs a clean, and then I'll get that hung and put on hanging from the ceiling, and it'll be done. So this is just going to be a very quick clip. It's not going to be a separate video. I just thought it's part of the hobbying, and it's something that's going to be in the vlog, but not as part of any other video. So let's have a look inside. I bought it second hand. As you can see, it's very battered, but it's pretty cool. Originally bought from the co-op for £22.95. You can see it's filthy and potentially is missing some parts, which will be frustrating. But let's have a quick look at what we've got. So it definitely needs a good clean. That'll just be warm soapy water, very gently done. We have the antenna array here, which I believe mounts somehow like so, and we'll go in there like that. It's quite easy to do. I won't push that in hard now. And this comes off, and we unfortunately don't have any figures, so that might be something to do over the years, is to get some more figures. I'm not totally sure where that goes, but I'm sure I'll work it out. Looks to me like we're missing some parts there in terms of the loading bay. So if we look in here, you can see that there's one of these blue things. I don't know if you can see actually, one of these blue things, but there's another one missing there. So that looks like that's actually damaged and gone. That maybe slots in here actually. That could be the seat, I think. Right, so there we are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some warm soapy water. Close it back up. Get some warm soapy water, and first of all I'm going to clean this just to give it, just to get an idea of how easily it's going to clean up. And then once I'm happy with that, then I'll wash the rest of it. So I will gather that together. We actually bought today a brand new bucket just for the purpose of washing this. So there we are, shiny new yellow bucket. So I'll be back in a short while to start washing that. There we are. So warm soapy water, just dishwater, dishwasher soap, dish soap even, and I have a little soft brush here, soft pad. I'm not going to use the scary side. And you can see that actually, the dirt is actually cleaning off quite nice and easily. So that's good. I don't want to go too crazy, I don't want to break anything. And I don't want to damage the plastic by using anything too caustic to clean it. What I might end up doing is soaking this a bit, but you can see it's coming off quite nicely, so I might not need to. I'll do the majority of it with this brush, and then, sorry, with this sponge, and then I'll get a little brush to clean the bits that I can't get to. But that there is already looking so much better than it did just a few minutes ago. Get rid of that old blue tack as well. I think I will use a sculpting tool to scrape that out. God knows how old that is, but it's pretty solid. There we are, get rid of that. Done. Right, no more blue tack. Okay, so I've done that as far as I can with the sponge. What I'm now going to do is grab a toothbrush, and it's always useful to have an old toothbrush to hand. I use it quite a lot actually for cleaning things, and you can see that you can really get in, and because it's designed, it's got relatively soft bristles, it does clean, but it's not going to cause damage. So let's get the rest of this cleaned up. Now let's clean off the inside. More blue tack. That water is black now, filthy. Okay, so with that done, I will now turn the camera off and I'll rinse that under warm water and then leave it to dry naturally. I'm not going to dry it with a towel, and I will come back when I get a little bit more time and clean the rest of that of the main thing, because that actually worked quite well, but I'm out of time now, unfortunately. But yeah, that's cleaned up very nicely. So 2 new kits I'm going to start building for this challenge. I had these, actually it was inspired by some comments I had on the Apex Kits video, and one of the guys that commented said that they had the Horsa glider from Sarissa. Now I've had this in my stash for a little while, just haven't got around to it, just time more than anything. And so what I thought I'd do is have a look at the Horsa glider and get it built. And then I thought that would be really good because I need it for scattered terrain, for chain of command, and that ties in nicely with the challenge. And when I went to get the Horsa glider out of my stash, I found that I'd also bought a German one as well, a DSF 230. So I'm going to make these, I'm going to try and make these as quickly as I can so it doesn't drag on. So we'll get that started. We'll start off with the Horsa glider, get that built, but I'll probably alternate between the two as I do. So I'm going to get that opened up, and I will invite you along for the first step when I begin. I've removed the packaging, so let's have a look and see what's in the packet. This is for the Horsa glider. As you can see, there's a nice, as always, very nice pictures on the front, and for this one, very clear instructions, but quite a lot in them. That's probably the highest number I've ever seen a Sarissa kit go up to, which is number 37, step 37. So we'll see how long this takes as I go through it. The instructions appear to be clear. Before I shot this, I've just had a quick read through them. They seem pretty clear, which they most often are. So that's that. You then have 1 sprue of the MDF there. You have your card sprue there for the body and the wings, which is cool. And finally here we have another sprue, slightly thinner MDF, I think. No, same, which also has some flaps there. That's the wings clearly, and the landing gear and the wheels. So yeah, so there's not a huge quantity of parts. However, it does seem that it's quite complex to put together. So I will invite you along. I'm not going to start this right away. It is currently 20 to 6 in the morning, because bless her, Rosie woke me up actually at 4:30, which was nice, and then she went back to sleep and I didn't. So I'm going to study this for a bit, and I'll bring you along very shortly when I start assembling. So I had a look at this, and I don't know if I'm going mad or not, and in this age of social media I have just messaged Sarissa on Instagram, as it happens, about this. However, the step 1 is fine. It says glue the centre cab rib 1, which is this here, to the cab core panel, which is that there. Great, we can do that, and we can do that probably without worrying too much about dry fitting. But step 2 says glue the cab inner frame panels 3 and 4 to the core panel. So what you're doing is you're putting this one on one side, and I can't find the other. So I only seem to have one of these inner frame panels. Now, it's not going to stop me completely from building the kit, because that's the cab, if I pull the instructions over here, this is the cab, and I can do almost all of the rest of it, and you only actually glue the cab on the front right at the very end. And I was actually considering doing some damage as well anyway, so maybe I can get away with it like that. But anyway, that slowed me down a bit. I've just been staring at it going, that makes no sense. So what we'll do actually is leave the first 6 steps just undone, because I can't do them until I've understood what's happening with these rib panels, because they're actually quite fundamental for the structure. So we'll jump on to step 7, and this is all about starting the fuselage. So glue the fuselage door side panels, and that is these, to the support panel here, and the hinge pin panel here, and then we get cardboard and we put the cardboard on the top. So what we'll do is we will cut these 4 items out now and dry fit them, and that's key. You should always dry fit. You should never guess with MDF kits, because it's so easy to make a mistake, and MDF doesn't really it's not very easy to take apart once you've glued it, especially with PVA. So get it right to get it right first time, you really do need to dry fit. So sharp scalpel here. This is actually a Citadel scalpel, just to press through these on the sprue, and then you can knock it out using the scalpel as well. There we are. Put that to one side. Okay, so to dry fit, let's have a look at this picture. Very nicely, if we pull this up towards the camera, what you can see is that the sprues actually are slightly different hole sizes to make it a bit more easy to actually position. So we slide that one in. Might need to be sanded a little bit, that. Don't want to break it, he says, having shoved it in. 1 second, I will just remove that. There we are. So that might need a little bit of a sand before I do anything, and that fits in quite nicely there. As you can see, that was quite easy to do. So I'm going to get myself a file, and I'm going to just sand down that end very slightly, just so that I don't damage it when I'm putting it in or pulling it out, because I think you need that to project, and so you don't want to damage it. I know quite a few people that actually sand all of their MDF kits to get rid of the burn. I don't generally bother with that. There we are. So a little bit of sanding, and that now slots in much nicer. So I'm going to get my PVA, and I'm also going to change the battery because it's dying on this, and then we'll glue that together. I'll be back in a second. Rosie is just stirring, so I'm going to have to do this and then stop for now. So I have a little blob of PVA on my plate, and in this case, simple as, I will just be dipping the part in and then slipping that through as I test fitted, like so. There we are, that's in, good. And then we'll take this part and do the same thing, so just dip it in, don't need quite that much, and push that in as well. There we are. And then finally we will just dip to the side and then have some fun attempting to do this without breaking it. Now I think it should be okay, because we should have, it should be guided on by that top pin, and then we should be able to relatively simply position the other pins and push it in the last bit. There we are, nice and easy. So, as I say, with Rosie now starting to stir, I'm going to pop that to one side, let that dry anyway, and I'll be back with the next step shortly. So there you are, we'll wrap that up now with Rosie starting to stir in the monitor. I'm going to have to go downstairs and get her up and start to look after her, which is always a great part of the day. It has been a good week, it's been relatively varied. I'm glad to have got that most recent project started. It's something that I've wanted to do for a little while, so it's nice to get it on the way. I should also add that I did spend a fair bit of time that I would spend hobbying in the fantastic conversations that were sparked by my video just done this past Thursday about Apex kits. I had such a fantastic response to that. It was amazing, and thank you everyone who commented and who watched that video. It was good fun, and I hope that we can generate some sort of comments and some interesting discussions like that again in the future. It was brilliant, so thank you so much. Really appreciate that interaction. I'll close off by saying don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to ding the bell and set that to all, and last but not least, thank you so much for watching Beard Clipper, and please stay safe, stay healthy and stay well, and stay drinking tea. I think I can probably drink this one this week. There we are. Cheers.